Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. As we studied earlier about the First World War, so at the end of the First World War, an organization was made in the world so that to prevent wars in the future. And this organization was called the League of Nations. So let's study about the League of Nations. Well, students, now the League of Nations was created just after the end of First World War. It was an international political organization and it was established just after the end of World War I. The main purpose was to prevent wars and resolve conflicts, because the wars happen when there are conflicts and tensions and battles and different fightings, different tensions on different matters among the nations. So to resolve these conflicts, to resolve these tensions, to resolve these grievances of the nations, the wars will be prevented. For this purpose, League of Nations was established, and other purpose was to promote international peace and harmony, so that there should be peace in the whole world and there should be harmony, hamahangi. They should be one. They should be on one page for different issues, and to avoid destructions caused by armed conflict. Due to armed conflict, a lot of destructions happens. The buildings are blown up, the people are killed, the progress, the development is declined. So all these things should be avoided. Another interesting thing in the League of Nations was that all the members of the League of Nations were self-governing nations. Means they were the free nations of the world, but except India. But India was taken as an exceptional case because India had a great contribution in the World War I to help the allies. The army, the local people, the local army of India, the local resources of India were used in a vast quantity in this war. So India was also given a membership of this League of Nations. This was as an exceptional case. India also became the member of League of Nations. Now, League of Nations got some successes and some failures. The successes were there that by 1920 it was expanded and a lot of nations became its members. It became a center of the international diplomatic activity. All the nations took great interest in this organization, and a diplomatic activity started, international diplomatic activity started in this through this organization. Now this organization put forward another idea that not only to prevent wars but also to fight against smuggling of opium, smuggling and the menace of slavery and the problem of refugees. So the League of Nations started working on smuggling, to stop the smuggling of opium and to stop the slavery from the world, to finish slavery from the world, and to solve the refugees problems in the world. So this was a great activity. But as we know, and when after Second World War, the United Nations was made. So United Nations is a subsidiary of this League of Nations, and till to this date, United Nations is working in different fields. So this all credit goes to the League of Nations, success of League of Nations. But League of Nations, why it failed and why then it was dissolved, and then United Nations, another organization, was made after Second World War. The failures was that it failed to avoid war, because Europe was Europe was heading to another world war, and League of Nations was unable to avoid this war. It was unable to convince the nations not to fight more and not to bring different nations in the war again. So it was dissolved in 1946, but it led to the United Nations organization after Second World War. In 1946, when Second World War finishes, so United Nations organization was made, and United Nations organization is still working, although League of Nations failed, but in the shape of United Nations organization. The League of Nations, we can say that still a successful organization, because League of Nations gave birth to the United Nations organization, and the mission of and the work of League of Nations is going on, still going on in the now in the shape of United Nations organization. Now, students, we will study this in detail in the next chapters, in the next pages.